Hi guys, Tom from Nova Comics again. Just doing a video to supplement a blog post I did on the website a while ago about some Batman recommendations. You really can't go too wrong with Batman, but there are some key stories I think that everyone should definitely read at some point, even if it's just once. Definitely starting with Batman Year One. Frank Miller, David Mazzucchelli, 1986 I believe it came out, but to me anyway, it's always been the definitive Batman origin. You know, it starts off with Bruce Wayne returning to Gotham after his long trip around the world, learning all sorts of crime-fighting techniques and whatnot. Coming back, getting to grips with the state of the city and sort of not really sure how he's going to clean up the city just yet, but definitely very keen to get started. So, as I said, it's definitely the definitive origin, and I think it's a great read because you see Batman at his most vulnerable. He's inexperienced, you know, he doesn't quite know yet what his methods are or, you know, why he should be doing things a certain way, but you definitely see him come into his own by the end of the story, and really everything is against him. There's nothing in Gotham that really is on the side of law and order at this point. It's just him on his own, or, you know, so he thinks until he meets and forms a bond with a young Jim Gordon who's just been transferred to the city, and it's really as much Jim Gordon's story as it is Batman's. You see a lot of things from Jim Gordon's perspective. He's trying to clean up the police force. He desperately wants a safe place to raise his family in, but things are against him as well. I mean, there's corruption all over the force. He's partnered up with Flass, who you might remember from Batman Begins. He gets a brief little subplot in there, but Gordon, anyway, everywhere he turns, he's just stonewalled. You know, it doesn't really feel like he can make any progress until Batman turns up. And initially he thinks that this Batman is someone he needs to capture and confront, but eventually he sees that Batman is a lot like him and that he has a desire and a drive to clean up the city, and he might just be able to do it, bizarrely. Next up, Batman, The Man Who Laughs. It's by Ed Brubaker, who you'll know from Captain America the Winter Soldier. It's a great run on Captain America. It is not so much an origin for the Joker, but definitely the first time that Batman and the Joker meet. It's one of the comics that heavily inspired The Dark Knight, particularly in the beginning, the poisonings that the Joker was carrying out. The whole comic is about the Joker rocking up and pulling off a string of impossible assassinations throughout the city. People like the mayor, the police commissioner, and culminating with the Joker trying to poison the Gotham water supply before Batman and Jim Gordon can stop him. It's a very cool read, very slick. I remember the first time I read it years ago still. It really will stay with you. Great read, definitely one of the best Joker stories as well. And Ed Brubaker is a great crime writer as well. He worked on Gotham Central for a long time. I really think there's few writers, maybe Greg Rucka, also from Gotham Central. You know, Brubaker and Rucka, they're the best crime writers working today, I think, definitely. Now this next one, Batman The Long Halloween. This is the must-read of the bunch. This is definitely the one that if you were to be locked in a room and only allowed one Batman story, I would say choose The Long Halloween. It's just, there's just so much to it, and it's a beautiful book. I mean, nobody does art like Tim Sale. I mean, it's just, you know, beautiful, beautiful art. And the story is just so intricate and complex. The whole thing hinges around a murder mystery at its heart. Someone is going around wiping out different crime bosses, different members of the Maroni crime family, who you may also remember from Batman Begins. Again, this is one that heavily influenced Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. Definitely must read if you love those things, but at its heart, it's a crime story, but it's also about obsession, it's about family. It's so intricate, and again, it's one of the rare times where you see Batman vulnerable, and it's a real tragedy. Like Batman loses in the end. He loses. I mean, all throughout the story, it begins with, you know, the triumvirate of Two-Face, still Harvey Dent, Jim Gordon, and Batman trying to clean up the city, and in the wake of it, they lose Harvey Dent in the mix of it all. by the end, he's lost a good friend and an important ally, and the city is worse off. And it really makes you question whether or not Batman has done any good by the city, or if he's just made it worse by wiping out the old crime, organized crime families and replacing them with these costume villains who are just out of control and random. There was a time when the police could rein in the gangs, even if they were being paid off by them. They were still normal human beings, and by the end of this, costume freaks are running the city, and it's just, what can you do but send Batman to fight them? It's like it's out of control of anyone in the city. It's a brilliant read, and there's so many great little ironies in it about family. Not Maroni, sorry, the Roman. Carmine the Roman Falcone, disappointed in his son for not being a great go-getter and a great criminal, plagued the whole time by Catwoman, the daughter he doesn't even know he has, who's trying to disassemble his empire. It's just so many little ironies and twists of fate. If you only read one Batman story, make it The Long Halloween, definitely. Last but certainly not least is the comic that really changed everything in the 80s. It's The Dark Knight Returns. Frank Miller again. If I had one criticism of Frank Miller, I'd say that he writes Batman too crazy. But then again, you'd have to be crazy to dress like this and think you could do any good. But it begins with an older, retired Bruce Wayne, depressed, arguably alcoholic. He's lost direction in his life, but he is pushing 60 by this point. Hung up the cape and cowl years ago, and just at a loss to what to do with himself. The city has been retaken by a gang called the Mutants, and it doesn't really seem like there's any hope with Commissioner Gordon about to retire. He just reaches breaking point. One day Bruce just shaves off his mustache and dons the cape and cowl again and just absolutely kills it. What can you say about a 60-year-old Batman going toe-to-toe with the leader of the mutants in a mud hole? Some great classic lines in here. If you're a fan of Batman, this is the game changer. This is the one that in the 80s changed everything. It took Batman from being a campy joke to being a real superheroic contender. And to top it all off, it's the comic in which Batman and Superman have their infamous showdown, parts of which have obviously influenced Batman vs Superman and the armoured costume. Looking forward to seeing that realised in live action, but definitely has its origins here. And if you're a fan of Green Arrow, like I am, has one of the coolest Green Arrow scenes. An armless Green Arrow knocking an arrow with his teeth and taking out Superman of all people. Definitely proving that he can hold his own and belongs in that Justice League as much as anyone else. So those have been my top 4 Batman stories. Certainly a lot more you could read to fill out the Bat catalogue, but these are definitely the must-haves. I wouldn't start anywhere else except for year 1. And if you read it in that order, then you kind of see his career as it progresses. The only thing I would add in would probably be Dark Victory, which is the sequel to Long Halloween, which sees Batman take on Dick Grayson as a partner, and again, echoing that kind of family theme of the Long Halloween, you see Batman kind of come to grips with the loss of his own parents by becoming not so much a father himself, but by mentoring someone who's gone through the same sort of tragedy. Definitely worth a read as well. So, to recap, year 1, Man Who Laughs, Long Halloween, Dark Victory, The Dark Knight Returns. Have a good one, guys. Thanks for watching.